Right. Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it a minute for our numbers to catch up as people join the Zoom room, but you have arrived at Career Buzz STEM Edition. If that's not what you were expecting, you might be in the wrong Zoom, but we're glad to have you. So we'll give it 30 seconds or so, and then we will kick off this event. Thank you for being here. Right. It looks like our numbers have slowed down as far as people trickling into the room. So let's get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Barber. I'm the Executive Director of your Sacramento State Alumni Association, and I'll be acting as the moderator for today's Career Buzz STEM Edition. I want to thank you for joining us for this event. It's a great opportunity for you to learn from some fellow alumni about their experiences. And I am honored to have such a wonderful group of Sac State alumni with us today, and want to thank you all in advance for sharing your diverse experiences and success stories. Career Buzz connects students and recent graduates with our diverse alumni network through question and answer discussion and networking. Today's event will take advantage of our strong Sac State alumni network. We'll hear from these 3 successful alumni who have made a significant impact within our community and are volunteering today as part of the larger university goal to keep alumni engaged with each other and students. We're excited to showcase these alumni and their experience and hear directly from them, but more importantly, have them share some advice with you. I'd like to welcome our panelists and invite them to introduce themselves. If you could maybe share your name, your major, your degree, class year, and what you're doing professionally, and maybe a fun fact if something comes to mind about that you'd want to share. We're just going to go in alpha order, so I'm going to kick it off with Angelica.
Hi, everyone. Angelica Corrazco' here. Good to meet you. I graduated from Sac State back in 2016 with a degree in general biology. I then proceeded on to, as an internal student myself, complete my master's and my PhD at UC Davis and in animal biology. And I'm now a air pollution specialist with the California Air Resources Board, where I've been for the past about 2.5 years now. Fun fact about myself, I consider myself a worrier of animals. So if you haven't gathered, I'm a big animal person. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelica. And another fun fact, Angelica worked in the Alumni Association as a student, so we really enjoy having her back with us today. Matt.
Yep, thank you. So Matt Knutsen, I graduated Sac State in 2007 with a bachelor's in civil engineering. I also continued on with education with a master's degree in structural engineering, San Jose State, and then recently an MBA at Cal State East Bay. So I've making the circuit, but it all started at Sac State. So I'm a principal and partner at a structural engineering company that we're based in the Bay Area, but we kind of offices globally and kind of work all over the world. And fun fact, oh man, good question. I guess in the interest of like continual learning, I am learning piano again for the second time in my life. And I get to do it with my son, so that's kind of fun.
Kudos to you. That's fantastic. And thanks for keeping all your higher education in the CSU system. I love it.
Yeah,
All right, Vikram.
great system.
Amen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vikram. I graduated from Sac State in 2018 with a computer engineering degree. I later got my MBA from an online university, WGU. And for work, I do data analytics, and I'm part of the DOJ team for data analytics. And then, fun fact, I am a committee member of the for the Alumni Association, and I guess another one, I also play guitar and then some piano. A music person.
So we could have a STEM musical jam here is what I'm
Oh
hearing.
yeah.
That sounds like fun. All right. Well, we're going to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes or so hearing firsthand from you about your career journeys, from successes, um, to, maybe challenges that helped you grow within your career, as well as some advice that you might want to pass on, for finishing up college experiences and taking that first step into your career journey. We won't be taking questions from the audience during this 30 to 40 minutes, but for all of you who have joined us online, I encourage you to use at the bottom of the screen the Q&A feature to enter some questions, and we will have about 10 minutes at the end of the session to dig into those questions. We are recording this session as well, so we will send out the recording in a couple of weeks after we get all the captioning done. So you'll have an opportunity to revisit anything that you feel like you may have missed. All right, we are going to kick off with a fun icebreaker, and I've found it interesting in doing these. You learn so much from what someone's first job was and what lessons they learned from that. I see Angelica smiling a lot. She must be reflecting on that first job. So I'm going to pass it to her and let us know, what was your first job and what were the life lessons you learned?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I have been reflecting, and I actually am tend to be quite an optimistic person. So I think a lot of the lessons that I learned are actually positive ones, just so late in my career now. At the time, it obviously was the only thing I had in mind. But my first ever job was the summer before my last year of high school. I worked as a retail associate at Reebok in Vacaville. I'm from not too far. I'm from Dixon. And I was really fortunate in that position and having a bunch of close friends that worked in that same facility as me. So I had a great time spending time with them and getting paid along the way. But I did, of course, encounter the angry customer and the all too friendly customer and everything else in between. And so being younger and a lot more energetic version of myself than I am now, I learned a lot at the time. My emotions were very large and strong, but in hindsight, I learned to not take people so seriously, in particular when certain customers had outbursts and whatnot. And at the time, I think also conveniently because I was receiving a paycheck at the end of every other week, to not take those customers' thoughts so seriously just along the way.
And those are great lessons, because I don't know that there's a job out there that you don't have some element of customer service. So whether you start in fast food or retail, that really kind of throws you into the pit of dealing with how people are arriving at your place of business. So thank you for sharing that. Vikram, how about you?
I was gonna say I can relate to that so much, Angelica. So my first job was also in sales. I was a sales consultant at Best Buy selling computers. I didn't know that I was gonna, start with that. I did like working with computers, but I didn't know I was gonna sell them. So that was interesting. One life lesson that I learned from that job was your first impression is kind of the best shot that you have. So don't miss that and try to show up, try to be there. Another lesson I learned was communicate early, be on top of your communication, because that's really all that there is when it comes to making sure that everything goes as planned. So those are the two biggest things that I learned from that job.
Definitely can't go wrong communicating and kind of showing up and putting your best foot forward. That's great advice, again, no matter where you are in your career. Matt, how about you?
So it's interesting because there's definitely a theme here. And my experience, first job was very similar. Actually, Angelica, like particularly similar to yours. When I was 16, I got a job in the shoe department at Montgomery Ward's, for whoever remembers that store. It doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And no, it taught me a lot about, dealing with people, customer service. And, you're 100% right that the applicability of that just across the board and anything you do in your career is significant. Um, had a lot of just really difficult customers that would come in and just all sorts of craziness that you had to deal with. Um, but you learn how to do it, and it's a significant skill that can't be understated.
And it's also a skill, as much as I love Sacramento State, you don't necessarily learn that in college. That's something that you learn through experience and interacting with a variety of people. So great to see that kind of commonality and reassurance, I think, for students that whether your first job's at Taco Bell or it's, working in a retail store that you love, it's going to apply and continue to impact your journey. Um, so speaking of students, that's part of why we're here today is to provide them some insight. So I'm curious from each of you, what was the best advice that anyone has given to you throughout your journey? Matt, you're unmuted, so I'm going to call on you again.
It's a great question. There's a lot of advice that's been given, but the first thing that comes to mind actually relates to communication we were just talking about. And it actually came from a professor at Sac State. And so he really impressed upon me early how important communication, and his teaching, it was in written communication, the ability to write well, um, is something that applies to everything. And he was even a little self-critical at the time that it's not something, at least in the STEM programs, gets enough attention. So I've passed that advice on throughout my career to young folks that I mentor, and I see it as somebody who manages staff and hires people. The ability to communicate both verbally but also written really stands out.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to be able to convey your message and have people accurately understand and interpret what you're saying. Angelica, I'm going to call on you because picking up on writing, I'm sure you had to do a lot of writing and communicating to get that thesis and that PhD, Dr. Carrasco. So maybe you could share what was the best advice anyone has given you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, writing was very much a big part of that. But this really started for me way back when I was in grade school. My dad has been one of the biggest supporters and role models for me throughout my entire life. He himself is actually a Sac State alumni, so fun plug for him. And just kind of growing up and going through both my undergraduate, but also my graduate degrees, you have some really hard times. You are confronted with adversity, and just difficult days overall, whether that be like family or economy driven. And so I know we've all heard it before, but the biggest or best advice that I've received is to never give up on anything, whatever that is. And I've kind of made that just a motto for my life. So like during times that you feel like you want to quit and things are not really working in your favor, just having that perseverance and that ability to push through whatever that situation is, was really, really helpful just going through both my undergraduate degree and then also graduate school. And now that I'm working. So if you ever feel like you're in a tough time, all it takes is taking one class, or if you have a rather bad interview, reflecting on that and applying for 2 more jobs and kind of pushing through and learning from those past experiences really helped drive me along the way.
I love that theme of optimism and persistence and even bringing the tie of family, because even though we're talking about career journeys today, you're not on your career journey in a bubble. There are generally supporters or family members and friends that are there supporting you and encouraging you along the way. So thank you for sharing that. Vikram.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Angelica. That is a huge part that I've also gotten advice from, and family for me is very important. Most of my advice is I get from my family. I would say one thing that persistence definitely is a key role in achieving your goals. So like don't, kind of like don't let anyone tell you that, you're not made for this career or you're not made for this job. So definitely that is a huge, huge aspect. And the kind of just to kind of piggyback on that is, you know, um, just be like document yourself. I think the one of the other advice is like really document your work, especially in engineering. It's like very important is to always document what you're doing. It's a way to reflect back on what you achieved and what you worked on, and be able to tell that, that whatever that is that you documented, to be able to tell that as a story and present yourself, because that plays a huge part in advancing in your career. If you can tell your background in the story, it can really benefit in communicating your ideas.
Well, and you teed up the next question perfectly, so thank you for that. But it really ties to telling your story through either a resume or an interview. And whether you all are the hiring manager or you're participating on an interview panel, can you share with our audience some of the qualities that you're looking for when you talk to candidates for positions that you're involved with? Doesn't necessarily have to be skills and whether they have that degree or not, but what are some of the qualities that you're trying to assess in those situations? Vikram, do you want to kick it off since you so aptly guided us here?
Sure. And I'll just piggyback on my previous answer. And so essentially during an interview, and I can speak for most STEM or engineering interviews, for me, I think the biggest thing is if you can walk me through your thoughts and your thinking process, that is a really nice quality in my opinion. So for example, if you're presented with a complicated problem, it's not the answer that necessarily is important. It's how you get to that answer. So that process in its own is a decision making. For me at least, like, okay, if you can walk me through, how you got there and all the hurdles you've hopped, I think that is a huge plays a huge role in the interview at least. For resume, I think be concise. You don't have to put a lot of words in there. Keep it concise and just keep it nice and tidy. One thing for me is that when I was building my resume for the first time, I was putting a lot of stuff on there, like everything that I did. I threw everything on there, and one of the recruiters, they at Sac State, they reviewed it, and they were saying, like, no, don't put all this stuff, concise it. So that's for a resume tip.
That's good advice, and a moment for me to give a shameless plug that the Career Center on campus that Vikram just referenced will help alumni as well. So if you're a recent grad on this call and you're wanting to know, how do I make my resume more concise? You can schedule time over at the Career Center to have them review your resume. So back to our regularly scheduled question. Matt, since you're also in the engineering world, thought it'd be fun to pivot to you, and what kind of qualities are you looking for?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just piggyback in one last plug on the resume. Cannot emphasize what you said enough. One other thing I'd add to it is making sure everything has a purpose. I think a lot of times people are doing a resume from a template or whatever, and so there's like all this stuff to fill out, and you just like start filling things out just because it's there. And at some point, you're gonna have to sit down in front of somebody and sell yourself. And if things are there that don't have a purpose, they're not really doing you any good. So I totally agree with that. For qualities, a couple of just kind of basic qualities that I always look for are the quality, taking ownership and care. And those are two things that are, again, universally applicable in anything you do. And it trying to think of a good way to kind of describe how that changes. It doesn't change the underlying thing that you're doing. Like so in engineering, we have engineers that do calculations and create drawings and whatnot, and they're doing that. But when somebody does that with personal care and taking personal ownership, the quality of what they're doing is significantly different. And it gets recognized very quickly. And those are things that not only will open doors for you, but they will also like lever up whatever your career path is.
And that, I mean, in my head, that translates to the difference between someone who's just doing something to check the box and it's done versus someone who sees their work product as a direct reflection of them
100%.
and the quality that they put into it.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. All right, Angelica, how about you?
Yeah, it's been really great hearing your two thoughts from a engineering perspective. I think mine is slightly different, as my background again is in biology, and though I continued in the vein of biology, it's kind of shifted more to air pollution and climate change and things along the more, I would say, global sphere. And so things that I have looked for just in hiring interns, but then also now just being in the workforce and participating in a few career-related opportunities for folks and looking over the resumes. One thing that I would like to highlight is having transferable soft skills cannot be understated. It's might appear to be random on some of your resumes. As Jennifer mentioned, I actually had a position at the Alumni Association, and I have continued to include that on my resume because I learned a lot about communicating with folks at different scales, and that has been really, really helpful just as I progress in my careers. So though it might not have a purpose for that specific position, the transferable soft skills speak wonders. The other thing is demonstrating knowledge and an interest in that position in particular. So do your homework prior to applying to a certain position and try to tailor your resume so that it fits what they're looking for. Take some of your soft skills or transferable skills and write in how that can be reflected either through like the cover letter, or in some positions they actually have a statement of qualification, which is another opportunity to kind of sell yourself. And then another really important point that I look for is enthusiasm and the ability for someone to problem solve. So if you can work that into your resume, that is something that I would highly recommend.
All excellent thoughts. And some of those are harder to showcase in a resume on paper or on a, filling out an application form, but the interview is really a place to like knock it out of the park with those soft skills and showing that you can relate and hold a conversation. So thank you for sharing all of that. I will put in one more shameless plug. We do a number of networking events through the Alumni Association. So if you are feeling like you're a little short on, how to talk to people you don't know, check out our networking mocktail mixer or things like that we do throughout the year. It's designed to help build those skills. Let's pivot a little and talk about successful work styles. And we'll start with goal setting. And maybe have each of you addressed, how do you set goals for yourself both day to day, so you feel like you're accomplishing stuff as you go through your work week, but also long term, so those projects you're working on come to fruition in that time frame that you're hoping they will. Vikram, you want to start? I see you nodding.
I will. I like this question a lot. So I've recently started doing this more often. And one approach that I take is I look at my long-term goals first. So I kind of give me a clear picture of what I need to achieve. And this could be personal or professional. And then I would, take that and kind of dissect it into smaller pieces, into chewable pieces, because a goal could be a huge, huge thing, right? And when you look at it first, it might seem like it's impossible to achieve. But if you dissect it into little pieces, they're bite-sized pieces. That's kind of my approach. And then those little pieces then turn into my weekly goals, daily goals. And one thing that I would really actually share for this one is find an accountability partner. And this has helped me a lot, like tremendously. When you have somebody who's always accountable and like, kind of keeping you on track, it just helps in achieving those goals. So I really find this, for me especially, it's has worked tremendously well, is to have an accountability partner who's there to, make sure, like after making like a couple of days, like give you a call, like, hey, are you still on track? If not, what's going on? So that's kind of my system of approaching my goals and achieving them.
I love that idea of an accountability partner. I'm going to take that into the work I do. That's fantastic. And you talked about dissecting your goals, which made me think of Angelica and biology. So Angelica, tell us about your goal setting.
Yeah, that was a great segue for me, Jennifer. So thank you for that. I think one thing to kind of think about is every position and every manager employee relationship that you'll be in, and even just every task that you have while you're still in your degrees at Sac State, or if you just graduated, is going to be completely different. And so having some sense of resiliency and flexibility around how you approach every day is going to be super helpful. At least I found that for myself. So kind of taking the scope of a position, for instance, and we are talking careers, and it is in the middle of my workday. So thinking about my current workday, for instance, I start my weeks off by meeting with my manager and figuring out, just based off of his knowledge from upper management, what the high priorities are for the agency, but then also for our division. And then with that, I create a day-to-day to-do list for myself, which as I accomplish a task, I cross it off. And that was my work example, but I also apply that to my personal life. It helps me feel as if I'm accomplishing things day by day. Gives me an optimistic outlook into the rest of the week, and just helped me feel a lot better as I complete my entire to-do list or checklist by the end of the week, and set the new one for the following week. And that kind of extends to long term as well for me. So thinking about a growth mindset and just my 5-year plan, I have an idea as to where I want to see myself either in my personal life or career wise in the next 2 or 5 years. And being flexible, knowing that things change and life happens, and where I saw myself 10 years ago is not where I'm at today, but it's fine. And I have a great position. But having just a goal for yourself in that time period is going to be really important. And then just being flexible along the way, and crossing things off and just feeling a sense of accomplishment from accomplishing what you have set out, just on a smaller scale.
There is such satisfaction in crossing things off, whether you're a paper list or an online list, just crossing that there is so satisfying. Matt, how about you?
Yeah. So you literally took the words out of my mouth. One of the things I've experienced is because I've been on an endless journey to find the perfect recipe for keeping my goals well tuned in and aligned and prioritized and all of that. And it is always a lesson to be learned. But the simple things like finding, what's just very satisfying about checking a box. And for me, I found because there's endless tools out there like lists and app this and whatever. But there's simple ones that it's got a checkbox and you click it and then it strikes it off and your list gets shorter, and it's just so satisfying to do that it keeps you motivated. So find those things and use those tools, because sometimes just the drudgery of routine can creep in. And so if you can keep yourself engaged and excited, that works a lot. And then prioritizing, figuring out how to prioritize things. Again, there's lots of models for this. If anybody's familiar with the 4 quadrants of, what's, urgent, important, and what have you, it's a great way to look at it. You can, especially in your career, when you interact with a lot of people, you get things flying left and right. It's very easy to lose sight of what is actually aligned to your plan and your goals and what is a true priority. And those distractions can wreak havoc on any sort of goal accomplishment.
Prioritization and that ability, it's not a no-brainer. It does take thought. It takes receiving input from others, whether that's your supervisor or your board of directors or whoever you report to. But I would echo how important being able to prioritize your tasks is to make sure you're successful in accomplishing your goals.
And actually, one last thing just throw out too is don't be a slave to your process. It's very easy to create a list, and then 3 months later you're still working off that list, and you're just I gotta accomplish this list. Somebody once told me that lists are great because 3 months later they're very easy to just throw away and start over. And sometimes that's what you need to do.
Yep, agreed. Well, thinking of when do you take things, throw them away, and start over? All of us have to think about innovation in the work that we do, whether it's creating efficiencies or creating new opportunities altogether. Specific to being in the science and technology environmental arena, what does innovation look like for you in your roles? Is it business practices, processes? If you could share a little bit about innovation in your lives, that would be great. Matt, do you want to take this one first?
Sure. Yeah, innovation's it's an interesting one. Innovation means a lot of different things to different people. And that's not to say that some of them are right and some of them are wrong. I think that innovation really is it's essentially discovering and the mindset of discovering and the culture of discovering new and better ways to, like in the business world, we say create value. But that's really it in a nutshell. That can be applied in so many different ways. And one of the things I'd like to really highlight, though, is the importance of it. Um, in the business program, we talk a lot about change and the effect that change has, or the necessity of change. I think it's a really important principle to keep in mind, is that nothing stays static in business, in life, anything. And so it's very easy for us, especially when we're learning and growing in our careers. It's like, oh, I'm trying to learn everything. So I get to that point where I know it all and I just kind of like go along. And like Vikram, I think you could probably second this. In engineering, there is no such thing as you know everything. Like there's always something to learn. But that place of static is not real. And so you're either, things are always changing. So you're either growing and you're advancing forward, or you're falling behind. And that's really, to me, kind of the underlying principle of why innovation is so important.
And I think you hit, there's a quote that I heard long ago, and I don't even remember who it was, someone famous. But change is the only constant. And so, you always have to be able to innovate and adapt and pivot. I know that's a word we got tired of during the pandemic, but it's applicable. You've got to be able to pivot no matter what industry you're in. Angelica, how do you see that role of innovation in your workplace?
So I am kind of fortunate, though I work for the government, and I know you all have heard about the red tape and how slow government work can be. I also happen to be on the side of research, and so innovation is huge where I am at, both in the workplace and just in my personal life, and the path that I've kind of taken since my time at Sac State and through graduate school. In research, things are ever evolving, though there are people that are kind of resilient to change and they don't want to see change. It is what kind of drives the work and progress in general, just as we learn more and develop a better understanding of the world that we live in and how we can work along with it. As mentioned, I am in the Air Resources Board, and so we're kind of on the path of correcting some of the changes that have happened, both just climate-wise, but then also improving the air that we breathe. And so being in research, we are constantly reading papers, expanding our knowledge, learning as much as we can, gathering new information from academia. So innovation and change is huge in my current life. And so staying on top of whatever field you're in, the changes that are happening both in your field, but then also tangential to that, is going to be really important.
And I think that is a great insight that I hadn't thought of, is you don't ever stop learning. Just because you finish your degree, you get that piece of paper that says you did it. You still have research and learning to do in your professional roles, your personal lives, all of that. Thank you for pointing that out. Vikram, how about you?
Yeah, I first of all, I want to say I agree with both of you guys, Matt and Angelica. Innovation, as you guys mentioned, is a huge part in any industry, especially in tech. It's kind of what drives everything. And so at the DOJ, it is also a government job, like you, Angelica. So it's a little bit on the slower side, but that doesn't mean that they don't value. It's very important, and for at least for our department, it's always valued because there's always new ways of security aspects and like things getting more vulnerable and being able to protect the people and protect our data. I think it's a huge something that pushes everybody to keep thinking of new ways to secure our systems. So for my team, especially, we are always looking to innovate ideas. And what I like about the DOJ is that we can reach out to our upper management and can always present an idea, and it's never like it's always something that we can execute and present. So definitely a huge aspect. And yeah, so that's about it.
That's great to hear that you're encouraged from upper management to like bring forward ideas and concepts and maybe not just tackle tasks that you're assigned. That's awesome. So great. Some of the best ideas come from that. Speaking of ideas, and to me that ties to advice, want to have you all share a little bit of, we've heard from you the advice you got that impacted you, but given where you are in life, what advice would you give to someone who's either still a student at Sacramento State or who just recently graduated as they're kind of starting this career journey? Matt, you want to go first?
Sure. I think probably two things I would put out there. Nothing revolutionary, so don't hold your breath. But internships. I really would underscore the value of internships. And I'm maybe hypocritical in it because I did not do an internship in my undergrad. But it's supremely valuable. Internships is such an important part of the journey. And so with our company, it's something that we invest a lot in offering internships and really trying to get people to start off. And it's an opportunity to start to see how you apply what you learn academically to the real world. And in engineering, we would have exams that it's like a carefully structured problem where you can apply the tools that you've learned. You go out in the real world, nothing's structured that way. You just walk into a situation, you got to kind of figure out what tools do I need, then apply them. And internships are great for that. And then the other is, it's kind of networking a bit, but it's a combination of networking and looking down the road as to where you want to go. Putting yourself into positions where it's not just something for today, but it's somewhere to grow into, and having a position where you always have room to grow and to move forward, I think is a lot, especially early on in your career. You want to be growing a lot early in your career, ideally through your entire career.
Well, yes, and that makes sense. You don't want to go into your first job that's a dead end to nowhere.
Yeah.
So great advice. Vikram, how about you?
Sure. I'll say two things on this one. So if I were to put myself back in those shoes again, when I was still at Sac State, which wasn't a while ago, but I would say don't let go of the eagerness to learn and adapt. Definitely that will get you a long way, in a long way, especially in the tech industry. Eagerness to learn, always keep learning, keep your skills sharpened, and ability to adapt. So if a project all of a sudden changes their scope, be prepared to adapt and not complain. So that's another thing. And then second thing I would say is develop and leverage your networking skills while you're still in college, because this is a huge thing that has helped me like land my first job is really network. Don't be shy to approach your peers, your professors, your counselors. They're there for you, and your mentors, they're there for you to help you succeed. And really utilize that networking to get yourself, really to help you achieve your goals, right? Whatever the goal may be, there's always definitely people there to help you out and to get you on the right path and help you with your little struggles and hurdles and things like that. Just to keep yourself motivated. And so, yeah, those two things are definitely on my top two list.
And having that collection of contacts that you keep fresh, I mean, is what I hear you saying some is, you never know when you might need to quickly change jobs, or you might decide you want to go to grad school, and having that network of people that you can reach out to for a letter of reference or an informational interview, and, keeping those relationships warm is I think, critical to being able to continue your trajectory of your career. Angelica.
Yeah, those are some really great points. And I did kind of want to piggyback on what Vikram said at the start, which was the aspect of adaptability. So one thing to kind of think about just as you are at a great point in your start of your life is that your path might change, and that's okay. I spoke with Jennifer a ton when I was back in my undergrad about how passionately I wanted to go to veterinary school, and I am a doctor in animal biology, but I'm not a vet, and that's totally fine. And I found a path that worked for me, that fit my lifestyle, that fit what I want to do, just career progression wise, and it could not have worked out better for me. So be adaptable. Just easier said than done, but it will happen. And also reiterating what everyone else said with respect to networks. Find your village, whether that be other students at Sac State or folks that you see as a potential role model, or maybe it's a TA in one of your classes that you really like how they handle themselves and how they presented certain coursework, because you don't know, you might end up liking teaching or some of the other paths that maybe you're not considering right now. So just being adaptable and okay with any changes that life brings your way. It worked out for me, and I know that it will work out for you all as well.
I think piggybacking on how do you build your village? Some people may be like, I don't know how to build my village. The Alumni Association can help there as well. In addition to events that I've mentioned, we do have a Sac State Career Network where you can go online and search and find people who work for companies that you want to work for or who work in industries you're curious about, and make those connections and start building some relationships. So encourage you to check that out as well. Before we go to Q&A, thought we'd wrap up with something fun, kind of what are future focused? What are you three still looking forward to in your either professionally or personally? What's that next kind of big goal on your horizon? Matt, you're smiling really big, so I'm gonna toss it to you. You're gonna be a piano player extraordinaire.
Yeah, I was gonna say retirement. No, but seriously, or more seriously, kind of so with my career where I'm at now and the company, I do a lot of mentorship and coaching and development of next generation managers and leaders for our company in particular. And so that's kind of a big goal for me, is to see a lot of them continue to succeed, but ultimately to reach the top levels of the firm in the industry, and that will be that'd be a really big milestone.
Angelica, how about you?
Yeah, along the same vein, continuing to work on myself professionally and personally. So kind of piggybacking off what I said earlier, fostering those relationships, either those that I had already built or just in my new career, friendships, seeking guidance and help where needed, either through my family outlets or even in work. Growing in both my current role and future roles, and having that 5-year plan in mind. For myself, I hope to promote into management in the foreseeable future, and then also doing more of the things that I love that makes me me. So I really love teaching. So ideally going back into teaching at some point, either at the JC level or as a lecturer, and then giving back to my community more, because I enjoy doing that.
Awesome. And Vikram, what does your future hold?
So immediate professional goal I can think of at the right now is to develop and incorporate a recruitment pipeline system for the DOJ. It's something that a lot of new students have been kind of afraid, because it's such a long process and such a tedious process sometimes. So this is a project that I started within a leadership program within DOJ. And the aim is to really create more awareness of job opportunities at DOJ and streamline recruitment and mentorship process. So really looking forward to this project. And for personally, I think a personal goal would be to learn a couple more musical instruments.
We really are going to have to start a band. That's great. Well, thank you all for sharing. I'd like to pivot now to the things that have been submitted in the Q&A, and we've got a good list going. So we'll try and kind of work our way through that. Our first attendee noted that all of you have completed an advanced degree, a master's degree and beyond. And they want to know a little bit more about what made you continue your educational journey in that manner. And then also quick follow-up, what was your best moment at Sac State? So anyone want to take that first?
Sure. So for me, so on the question of continuing education, um, as like maybe basic as this might sound, when I was getting close to, so when I was progressing through my undergraduate degree, I thought, wow, when I graduate, I'm going to know a lot. And then as I got close to graduation, I said, oh man, I don't know that much. And so it's a little bit of maybe mindset of, there's always more to learn. That's kind of driven it. But in engineering, what I found particularly satisfying about getting a graduate degree is the direct applicability of that to the work that I was doing. And so it was, I was, because I would actually, so I did a graduate degree and working in my career at the same time, kind of juggled the two. And it was fantastic because I could do exactly that. I could, learn certain things in my graduate studies and then directly apply them. And so it really was just like so tangible as to the value I was getting out of it.
That's awesome. I will say I did the same thing in my master's program. Some of my work projects became school projects and they got done with input from others. It was great.
Yeah, it's great.
How about you, Vikram?
So after completing my bachelor's, so I was very tech heavy, and for me, the purpose of going for the master's in IT management was to understand the business aspect. And it started off as a personal growth, but then it turned into a more of a applicable degree to my own job. So it really helped me, accelerate um, and have more responsibility. So I mean, if you're looking to pursue further education, I would highly I'm highly supportive of that, because it is tough if you're like doing a job like Matt said. If you're trying to do your master's while you're also working, it could be tough. But I look at it as like, you can apply things that you learn in your master's to your job, and so they can kind of go hand in hand. So really take the opportunity if you're looking into it. Highly suggest it.
Angelica, how about you? What pushed you in the direction of grad school?
So I was always in the direction of some sort of advanced degree. I mentioned I actually spoke with Jennifer a lot about this back when I was in my undergrad. I was convinced I was going to veterinary school, but I actually volunteered at a few vet clinics and did not love it. So I was kind of at a crossroads and applied for vet school, but also took the plunge and applied for a master's degree. Not just at UC Davis, I applied many places, but fell in love with the lab that I landed in at UC Davis. It was world-renowned in animal agriculture for air emissions, and kind of saw a path forward for myself pursuing that, and also really loved research when I was at Sac State. So figured, why not take the plunge? A master's is only 2 years. Like, what harm could that do? And fell in love with it and stuck around for a PhD. So that kind of snowballed into the PhD. That's why I ultimately did that. But yeah, for me, I knew I was going to go for an advanced degree. I just wasn't really sure what that was ultimately going to shape out to be. And the path was different than I had planned, but it worked out really well.
Sometimes I think life would be boring if it went exactly as planned. So, you learned and you grew. And I really appreciate that you also brought in the aspect of you did some volunteer work and discovered that the path you thought maybe wasn't the path that was for you. I think that's an underutilized avenue, is using the opportunity to volunteer places to learn more about what it might be to work in those type of places. So just throwing that out there. Let's see, Matt and Vikram, one of our attendees wanted to know if your MBA has specifically being engineering backgrounds, but then getting an MBA, has that, you know, been good for your career goals, or your overall journey?
I can answer that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ultimately it depends on your goal. If you just want to stay tech heavy and just kind of work on your whatever it is, you can There's also a master's within, like, computer science or computer engineering, which was my first kind of choice. But then I think with the for myself, I was looking more of a upper, like, kind of management role, where I'm helping the team and providing resources. So for me, the MBA made more sense for IT management. But ultimately, it does depend on what you're looking to do with that degree, if that makes sense. Yeah, I would say tech heavy. Stick to more of the Master of Science in computer science or computer engineering, or any engineering. And if you're looking to more of like a management role, if you're trying to be more on the business side, then the MBA, IT management, things like that would be helpful.
Matt, any more you want to contribute on why MBA? No.
Nailed
Okay.
it.
All right. Fantastic. Angelica, there was a question about how your background in animal biology contributes to your work in air quality. And I think you very quickly said something about emissions as you were going over your background, but what more would you add to that?
Yeah, so I back at UC Davis, my master's and my PhD were in animal biology, but as I did kind of gloss over earlier, it was in a livestock air quality lab. And so we were looking at methane, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, some of the really big key players in climate change, and animal agriculture's impact on those. So quantifying emissions. And when I first joined the Air Resources Board, it kind of was more of a transferable skill, but I took on a new position in the last 6 months that is directly in line with the work that I did back in my PhD work. So I am once again conducting research looking at mostly agricultural as a whole, but there is aspects of dairy and other bovine species involved. So I'm kind of filling a niche that the agency needed, that fits perfectly in line with my degrees. So air quality focused again.
Fantastic. And I'm going to stick with you for a second because another question had to do with a student majoring in biology, feeling like there's limited opportunities in the greater Sacramento area. Do you have any advice or insight on ways to connect with things that might be in the vein of biology in this region?
Yeah, so if you still have a little bit of time while you're at Sac State, I would highly recommend that you reach out to professors and other students that might be a little bit further along to see if maybe they have internship ideas or things that they can send your way. I totally get it. There is limited work just in the Sacramento region, but if you are willing to go a little bit outside of that, there's Genentech, there's places not too far if you are willing to go into the like Silicon Valley area. And then you really don't have to go too far if you're interested in something such as a physical biology, so like animal science in my case, UC Davis, and ton of agricultural fields in and around the Davis area. So there are opportunities to explore internships in industry if you are interested in like plant bio or anything of the sort. So the opportunities are there. They are a little hard to see, I know, when you are in your undergrad. And so that would be my first recommendation, but then also to connect with the Alumni Association. They can connect you with folks such as myself or others that have gone down the same path. And we can give you some insight as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Vikram, a question for you about what sorts of tools do you use in documenting your work achievements?
Great question. I've used anything simple as OneNote, Microsoft OneNote. to document like all the work. There's for like tracking and stuff like that, I would use there's a software called Jira. And that's more for like kind of your day-to-day things, like what you're doing, what tasks you're working on. So that's a really good tool. But I like to stay simple. OneNote is definitely how I keep everything organized, and all my documents and all the notes and things like that. So yeah.
All right, thank you. And Matt, someone was asking specific to you, even though job security for civil engineers and construction management engineers is pretty high, what advice or input do you have on the job outlook in this field?
Good question. Overall, I'd be very optimistic on it. As an employer in the field, it has been a challenge for at least the last 4 years, if not longer, to be able to hire enough good, skilled engineers. And it's not just a challenge that our company faces, it's every company that we work with. It's a common theme. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Some of it is market specific. So like, talking kind of more in the civil engineering and architecture and construction fields, all the submarkets there, it can vary, but in aggregate, there is a pretty optimistic outlook.
Awesome. This question is for Angelica and Vikram. Someone's curious about your thoughts on the recent mandate for all state workers to work 4 days a week in person.
Vikram, if you want to go first, I think we have
No, you
at
got
the
it.
same time. So my position, though we are telework, is very much in the field. So it really won't impact me all that much. I am in the field 5 days a week sometimes. Other times I'm in the field 2 days a week. But my work is very field heavy. So that is something that's very fresh. We just learned about this basically at the same time as everyone else, so 2 days ago. And I know that the agencies and the governor's office are still kind of trying to work out how that's actually going to play out to be, but at least me personally, it won't impact me all that much.
I'll kind of piggyback on that too. So if you wanna stay away from that, DOJ kind of works on its own thing. So we are not mandated 4 days yet. So yeah, I mean, if you enjoy working remotely, it'll be a great place to be.
All right, we are at 12:57. We're not going to make it through all of the questions, so I just want to acknowledge that. Question for the three of you how many of you are a part of the Career Network platform that we host online? Any of you? Would you be willing to set a number of people would like to connect personally with you, and I know that's a great way to do that. So if after this webinar, we can send you the link, and if you'd be willing to set up your profiles, I'd like to say that to all of our attendees as a way to connect with you personally and ask more questions. It really doesn't take too long to set up. It's like a LinkedIn profile. So,
all right, I'm actually part of it.
Okay, Vikram's already there. Yay!
You should definitely join. It's really great.
So to all of you that had questions we didn't get to, please check out our Career Network. Maybe give them a day or two to build their profiles, but then check that out. And then one attendee asked a question that I liked, and I thought it would be a good one to close on. And it was for everyone. And they said, why did you choose Sac State?
I'll go first. Easy question. My dad was an alumni, and he said, "I think this would be great for you," and yeah, that's what pushed me towards it, and I was thankful for the nudge.
Awesome. Angelica.
Yeah, mine was a very similar story. So as I mentioned, my dad was also a Sac State alumni. While in high school, applied a bunch of UCs, a bunch of CSUs, went and explored and did a bunch of tours out there. But fortunately, my dad had gone to Sac State, so he set up a bunch of one-on-one meetings with folks that were still his connections at Sac State, and I fell in love with the university while there. I also met some really great people that I still keep in contact with, both in the career center, but then also throughout different points of Sac State. And then also happened to meet some folks in the honors program, which I joined, and that was part of the big reason why I went to Sac State, was the opportunity to be in small class sizes through the honors program. Fell in love with it. Definitely would go nowhere else. It was a great university.
Love that. Vikram, how about you?
Oh yeah, it's I love trees. No, I'm just kidding.
Aw. We
I
are
do.
a tree campus, you know.
Yes. I was kind of in the family as well. So I had a older cousin who graduated from Sac State. He highly recommended it. It was close to me as well. And I want to say that I also set a little trend because a lot of my younger siblings and cousins also came into Sac State. Yeah, and they have great programs. They had a great engineering program, and so I really like that. And overall, just great clubs, and just it's just a beautiful school.
Fantastic. Well, I can't think of a better note to wrap up our session today. So I want to thank you three again, our fabulous panelists. Thank you so much for spending your lunch hour with us and sharing all this valuable information. We appreciate your volunteerism for this and beyond. All of you have been volunteers with the Alumni Association, and thank you for that. To everyone in our Zoom room, thank you so much for attending Career Buzz today. Please stay connected. Click that link for the Sac State Career Network, build your profile so that in a few days you can find Matt and Angelica, or you can reach out to Vikram even today. So build those villages, stay connected, and we hope to see you at some upcoming events. Thank you so much. Stingers up.